Today I want to talk about how if I could go back 8 years, I would do this switchgrass bedding area differently for deer, as well as talk about how I'm fixing it now. So stick with me and I'll show you exactly what I would have done in this area, as well as the improvements I'm working on currently. Alright, so you can see I got a big swath of switchgrass all around me right here, which has held a few deer. I've talked about in the past, I shot one buck that came out of this area. So there have been a few deer in the switchgrass stand, but there are things that I could have definitely done differently 8 years ago that would have made it better. So one thing I would have done differently is started planting trees immediately after I got the switchgrass established. You can see one thing I did right is I left these open pockets in the switchgrass because the thickest areas of switch don't bed deer. They do not pile into the thick switch and bed. They always, 95% of the time, they're bedding up on these edges. So when you leave these open pockets in your switchgrass, you're creating edge all throughout the switchgrass, which is very attractive and appealing to deer. You can see there's another spruce. So what I've done since, within the last couple of years, is start to add these spruce into my switchgrass stand, as well as some other trees. Another thing I would have done is get after these cool season grasses in the open pockets of my switch a little bit quicker now. I've started to spray it within the last few years. You can see right here, this was sprayed a few weeks ago. It's starting to yellow and die back with sprayed it with clethodim and crop oil. Also sprayed some thistles, so it's nice to see that they're dying. But I would have been really diligent about staying on top of the grasses that I did not want in my switchgrass stand. I think I passively stayed after some of these cool season grasses, but I was not diligent in staying on top of it. So I would have done that so I could release much more broadleaf plants and desirable forages for deer in these open spaces. As you can see, based on that big old deer bed, it's these open pockets that bed deer. I have a big bed there, walk, small bed right there, small bed right there. I saw these yesterday because I was in here actually drilling in some clovers into these areas where the grasses are dying. Small bed right there. May have been one more bed, maybe not. But this is very consistent. The beds are up against the switchgrass. So that's one good thing I did. And what I did yesterday is I came in. Now this grass, again, it's sprayed 2-3 weeks ago, so it's dying. And I had a no-till drill, had a little bit of seed left over from some perennial plots I did, and I drilled those right into these grasses that'll continue to die. And I'll be able to get some of those clovers popping. Now here's the biggest thing that I would have done differently. And I've been playing catch up with this, but look at the clovers that are coming up, these open pockets of switchgrass, and look at the insane amount of browse that's on these clovers. I mean, every single one of them is sawed off. I needed the food to get the deer in the switchgrass. Initially, with these open pockets being just cool season grass, the deer were not using the switch that much. But look at, I mean, it looks like I came through and clipped the tops of all this clover with a lawnmower. Like, there's not one plant that isn't browsed. So what I did is I came through this area I think it was early last May, sprayed back the grasses, and just broadcast in my clover. Now if I can go over one strip, I know I got more clover right here. Look at that. I mean, it looks great. And again, I mean, it is literally all of it is nipped. So I want the clover to pull the deer into the switch. The types of clover that I chose for this planting, which were new to me, I hadn't planted them before, but I wanted a longer lived red clover. So I went with Bearcat and Freedom. And both overwintered well here. I'm in Minnesota, and they seem a little softer than like a medium red. So I'm glad that I chose those, because the deer are clearly just absolutely smashing them. And the medium reds, it's like a 2 to 3 year clover. I think the Bearcat and Freedom are a little longer lived. Now don't quote me on that if you're familiar with those two. But either way, it looks great this year. I kind of forgot I did this until I got in here just this last week and did my spraying of the grasses and thistles and drilling in those other perennials. So, I mean, it looks fantastic. The deer are clearly in here using it. It's another really good example where they like to bed. Right on the edge. Very, very consistent. So I do have some open spaces where the switchgrass is really thin. I plugged in a lot of spruce, handful of white pine. Of course, the deer hit some of those. Some of those are still pushing through. We'll see if any of them make it. But I'm just trying to fill in this area, more of a thermal component. I wish I would have just done it all at once when I introduced the switch to this big old field 8 years ago. You can see, and I got the spruce coming. It's going to take a little bit, but when I can get thermal cover here, along with the switch, along with the clovers, and some of the other broadleaf plants that hopefully we continue to release by killing off these grasses, and I'm just going to have just the ultimate habitat out here for deer. Oh, that's what I get for not wearing my treated pants today. The ticks are bad right now. And there's some more of that beautiful clover. It's looking great. So again, this is what I would have done. I would have done my strips of switchgrass. I would have done my clover, and within the clover, I would have planted trees. So I would have had switch, clover, trees. Basically exactly what this looks like. And again, I mean, I can't find a spot where the deer aren't just absolutely smashing this stuff. But strips of clover, switchgrass, and trees. Clover is what is going to get them in here, get them using it. And the trees will be my long-term play in this area, because just if you're in the north, I mean, that woody cover is pretty king once the fall and winter rolls around. Switchgrass holds deer until, or this switchgrass holds deer until it falls down, but I want the trees coming too, so I can have kind of that long-term play, or I should say that year-round habitat. That's my goal. And you can see did a video on that last year. Red pine I added in here. So yeah, I mean, it's looking good, but it's a lot more work when you got to go back and you got to clean it up and try to deal with the grasses and things like that after the fact. If I would have just started this out and done a clover switchgrass planting 1 year, year 2 came in, planted all my trees, and then from there just stay after the cool season grasses and thistles, this would have been in a lot better shape than it is right now. I mean, it's getting there. Oh, there's one of my trees that died last year. But it's not as easy to play catch up. It's a lot easier to just do it right the first time. And I probably would have done a pretty even split. Half switch, half clover. If you're wondering about that, just lots of strips. I don't want to get deeper than, shoot, even like 10 yards between strips of clover with the switchgrass. As much edge as I can create. That would be my goal. And then the other thing I would have done differently is I double burnt this area. And what happened was the first burn probably top killed the trees that were already growing out here, just the natural woody regen. well, once I did that second burn, it pretty much finished off the trees that were growing out here. If I would have burnt this just once, I think right now I would have had a lot of saplings and things like that popping out in the switchgrass. So I'm going to let any woody regeneration that's here come. But I did set myself back by double burning this area. If you want trees in your switchgrass areas, you don't need to burn it. I mean, you can mow if you really feel like you need to cut the switch or reset the switch, but don't burn if you want trees, which I do up here in the north. I just love this. I love all these little pockets of clover that I got going out here. It's crazy. I didn't think it was gonna work all that great. I literally just sprayed it and broadcast seed. I think we got rain right after the fact, and it came. Clover, here's an area I drilled in yesterday. But it's nice to see the clover out here. It's making a big difference. Another deer bed right on the edge of the switch. Here's kind of the room or the view on this one. And we did add a lot of plum kind of around the edge here this spring. So we'll see if we can get some of them past the deer. Have to protect some of them. We'll protect what we can, and after that it'll be survival of the fittest. But nice thing about planting plum in this area is it's farther away from the oh, that one looks really nice. Farther away from the winter yarding grounds. So if we can get good deep snow, the deer don't tend to make it back into this spot until later in the spring. So it does get a few more trees past the deer, as opposed to if I were to plant way down by the swamp. That's where they yard up. But they don't spend a lot of time in this switchgrass area in the winter. So that springtime is when they really hammer a lot of these young woody stems coming out of winter when they're hungry. Anyway, so that's what I would have done differently. Half switch, half clover, and trees planted in the clover. And not burnt twice on this stand. So I can get more of that, more of those volunteer trees coming. All right, y'all take care. God bless.